so it's time to wrap up my trip to Hoi An, where I go over some of the smaller excursions I participated in and give my opinion about the city. Located right next to my first homestay was this temple. I don't know what religion they practiced, but the building looked cool. Close by sits a Western-style church. I passed this meditation center every night I walked into Old Town. One day, I joined an ATV adventure where we rode through backcountry roads on a beautiful sunny afternoon. My ATV continually stalled, which was a little annoying. I also fell off once navigating a ditch. It was still pretty fun though, and I recommend the tour if you have $80 to spend. If you go after a recent rainfall, be prepared to get muddy. And what trip to Vietnam would be complete without visiting the rice fields? I was the only one walking around. While here, I kept thinking of that scene in Forrest Gump, where Lieutenant Dan tells his platoon to "Get down, shut up." It was very peaceful. A little lonely as well. I did pass by these water buffaloes lounging in the shade. My final stop was the Heritage Museum. A French photographer had traveled across Vietnam documenting the people and traditional garbs of various tribes. The most striking photo is of this little girl who somehow was born with bright blue eyes. Besides clothing, there are several other artifacts on display. Along with some dioramas built of ancient villages. This setup made me think of Apocalypse Now, when they slaughtered the water buffalo in a ceremonial ritual. Out of the 5 cities I visited, Hoi An was my favorite. I ended up staying for 2 months. It might not be as lively as the bigger cities, but I liked that it was less crowded. The weather can get hot in the summer, with torrential downpours. Nevertheless, it's still fairly manageable. Since so many places are located near or in Old Town, Hoi An receives high marks for walkability. The sidewalks are well maintained, and they put barriers around hazards. What a concept! Are you paying attention, Malaysia? The infrastructure is pretty good overall. I didn't experience any blackouts while I was there, and the plumbing and Wi-Fi worked well in each of my homestays. The housing is also incredibly cheap. Most places charged me less than $500 a month. I spent half my time at Oasis Homestay, which has very modern rooms, a great view from the rooftop, with a wonderful couple running it. Can't forget their cute little dog, who the homestay is named after. The people of Hoi An seemed friendly, probably the friendliest I've met in my journey thus far. I'm guessing the crime rate is minimal here because people would leave their cell phones lying around, and bicycles would sit in front of buildings unchained. In fact, many houses left their front doors open, where strangers could just walk into the living room. For those who like parks, Hoi An has a few. including this really big one where large events are held. And there's always good old-fashioned communist propaganda. Restaurants abound, serving authentic Vietnamese cuisine. Or foreign dishes if that's what you're craving. At Herbal Pizza, they perform a small show with your purchase of a hamburger or steak, which was cooked to perfection. I ate there so many times, they gave me a souvenir cup on my last visit. For my boba tea fix, I often patronized a coffee house called Summer Milk Tea and Coffee. I paid $1.26 a cup, which is insane considering a boba tea costs $7 in Milpitas now. Seeing young people get together to play cards gave me hope for the future generations. And seeing this crushed it. Of course, there's a McDonald's. Do you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Vietnam? McRoyal Cheeseburger. And it tastes pretty much the same. Old Town gives the city great personality. Passing by the shops, watching the boats on the river, seeing the glow of the lanterns, all creates this feel like you stepped into a different world. There are some drawbacks, however. The restaurants in Old Town can serve mediocre, overpriced food. In addition, tourists pack the streets. Furthermore, I was told that the river floods during the rainy season. On a general level, Hoi An doesn't have any big malls, and the variety of activities can be limited unless you like massages, billiards, or karaoke. Traversing the sidewalks can be difficult with all the motorbikes parked on them. The populace also doesn't believe in noise pollution and will constantly honk their horns or blast their karaoke music in public. Oh, and many people own roosters, which will crow at all times of the day, not just the morning. Still, if there's one place I could see myself living long term, it would be Hoi An. The mix of affordability, amenities, restaurants, and charm combine to form an attractive expat destination. And I find Vietnamese women to be the cutest in the world. So why am I leaving? Well, the biggest con of Hoi An is that barely anyone speaks English. The fluency is good enough for basic communication, but don't expect anything deeper. If you're already married, this might not be an issue, but as a single guy, it's a deal breaker. Hopefully, I'll have better luck at my next stop. As a final note, during my time in Hoi An, I played with this kitten owned by an employee of a grocery store I would shop at. I wanted to say goodbye before I left, but when I arrived, the employees told me the kitten had been assassinated. Later, they clarified that it had actually been stolen, which was still sad. The incident reminded me of what I read in a comic book once. Hold close to something until the day you die, because in life, you never know what might happen.